Good day, everyone. I'd like to wish everyone of us that's attending today a happy International Tigers Day. My name is Brett Wright, and I'm the director of Tigers United University Consortium. I welcome you from a very hot and humid South Carolina in the U.S., a place that I think the Tigers would find quite pleasant today. It's also my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, but particularly on this day because it is also the year of the Tiger. Dr. Andrey Kushlin is a geographer by discipline who played a key role in the design and implementation of the Global Tiger Initiative and the adoption and the launch in 2010 of the Global Tiger Recovery Program. Born and raised and educated in Moscow, he made a career at the World Bank in Washington, D.C., developing multi-million-dollar public investment projects in sustainable forest management and biodiversity conservation across Europe and Asia. At the World Bank, he put together innovative partnerships with Tiger Range countries and various organizations in the non-governmental, academic, and business sectors, including the World Bank's seminal collaboration on tiger conservation with Tigers United, and we're very proud of that. More recently, Andrey served as the Deputy Director for Forestry Policy and Resources at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome, and then as an honorary member of the Global Tiger Forum, Andrey continues to assist Tiger Range countries in developing the next 12-year phase of the Global Tiger Recovery Program. Welcome, Andrey. It's great to have you.
Thanks so much, Brett, and good day, good morning, or good evening to everyone here. Happy Tiger Day. This is, of course, a webinar which is organized by the Tigers United University Consortium. So I'm specifically pleased to welcome here all the students, staff, and alumni, and just the fans of Clemson, Auburn, Louisiana State, and the University of Missouri. I'm glad to see amongst the participants quite a good number of my colleagues and friends from the Tiger Range countries, from partner organizations. You're all very welcome. I believe, yes, I'm working now supporting the Global Tiger Forum together with two of my colleagues, Mahendra Shrestha and Dr. Siva, in developing the drafts of the report on the Global Tiger Recovery Program and a draft new program. So I very much, what I'm speaking here today is not only on my own behalf, but also sharing insights and wisdom of my colleagues here. You will see that our organizers are reminding you that there is a Q&A function here. So please, at any point in time, submit your questions through the Q&A box, and Kyla will keep track of those so that she will then convey them to me, and we'll deal with them at the end. And I'm also particularly happy that today we had an opportunity to connect as discussants to our talk, to our discussion today. My three very good friends and colleagues, Dr. Maheshwar Dakal from Nepal, Dr. Anupam Joshi from India, and Dolly Chering from, Dolly, you will say where you are currently at, but you are working at the United Nations Development Program. And Dolly is from Bhutan. So they're all colleagues from our Tiger Range countries, and we will have an opportunity to check in on what they think of what we're discussing. Okay, so let me start my several slides that we'll go through. I hope you can see, yes, you can see the slides. So this is the subject of my talk today is Global Tiger Recovery Program, lessons and new challenges. And so tigers are in the news lately. You can see over the last couple of weeks, and in the last few days and today, news are coming in frantically to report on some important new developments. There's been recently an IUCN new assessment that came out with fresh projections of tiger numbers in the world, showing that they're going up. There's been specific stories coming from tiger-rich countries, certainly from Nepal, that today just announced that they more than doubled the number of tigers in the wild over the last 12 years. There's been a great flow of insights from various conservation partners who are looking at various angles of this whole development, to what extent it's really positive and subject of celebration, to what extent it can only afford cautious optimism, and maybe also pulling some warning signs about future threats and future trajectories. And just today, we even received fresh news from the Indian state of Tamil Nadu, whose chief minister announced that they will be willing to host a global tiger summit later this autumn, which makes this whole process even more interesting and exciting. So we are today in the Global Tiger Day, July 29th, and it's the year of the tiger, 2022. The Tiger Day was announced 12 years ago in conjunction with the previous year of the tiger and the first ever summit on tigers, which was the first ever summit on a non-human species altogether. And prime ministers got together in St. Petersburg, Russia, and endorsed a global program that announced a goal of doubling the number of tigers in the wild by the next year of the tiger, which is now. And the shorthand for that goal was picked as T × 2, doubling the number of tigers. And it's actually exactly 12 years ago, more or less today, that the tiger range countries have agreed to set up a Global Tiger Day. So we're in about an anniversary moment right now as well. It happened in Indonesia, in Bali, at the pre-summit meeting at that time. And then, of course, that decision was endorsed in November in Russia. Now, 12 years later, we are now in the next year of the tiger, 2022. It marks the end of the 12-year program, which was adopted in 2010. According to the news and assessments that we are hearing coming in, it seems that the wild tigers have increased by 40%, roughly speaking, and the numbers are mean estimations, not exact numbers, of course. And now is the time for countries to take stock as to what they have done, what has worked, what has not worked, and to set up the new goals. So here is this, on the left, I'm not suggesting you start reading all this long text on the left, but that's a quotation from a press release of IUCN, which was published a couple of weeks ago. And it essentially gives you the stats as to what the increase in the numbers is. And it actually marks that part of that increase could be simply that we're now better in monitoring tigers. So it would be partly an artificial increase to some extent. But fundamentally, that the trajectory is at least either stable or modestly increasing, which is a great achievement. Certainly, tigers remain endangered on the IUCN Red List. But the important message is that projects to save tigers can succeed, and their recovery is possible as long as conservation efforts continue. So now I'm reminding you, if you have questions so far, start sending them. Otherwise, What you'll hear in the next 20 to 30 minutes will cover three main subjects. First, what is GTRP, the Global Tiger Recovery Program? Second, did it work? And how do we actually measure results, whether they work or not? And the third point would be, okay, so what do we do about it? What's next? What can we think of the new goals to be set? What are the new challenges and what are the new low-hanging fruit opportunities? So what is GTRP? GTRP, again, it's an acronym. We're all used to acronyms. It's a Global Tiger Recovery Program. It's a comprehensive 12-year program, which really helps convert the political will of national leaders of 13 tiger range states into specific actions. It involved cabinet level endorsements and decisions, ministerial follow-up. It was comprehensive in that it was addressing all major threats, 9 themes, according to how you count, cross-sectoral approach. Fundamentally, that it's a country-driven program. Of the total volume of resources spent on it, 94% was on national programs and only 6% on global support programs and coordination efforts. It was costed, and that provided opportunity for various funding agencies, multilateral development banks, and other organizations to allocate targeted support to the various components and activities in different countries. For the first 5 years, the costed amount was about $350 million. After the initial 5 years, the funding was continuing to be allocated on a rolling basis through various new waves, but we do not yet have a specific figure for the total amount of resources used. It was important to notice that the program was really geared to be monitorable. It had a very sharp focus on this main goal of T×2, doubling the number of tigers, because it's a very important aspirational goal that motivates political will. It's what some people call a stretch target. Meaning that it's not always that important whether you really reach it or not, but that you're really aiming for it. That was very important. And we'll talk about the KPIs, the key performance indicators, in a few moments. It had a flexible and mixed financing arrangements. Various institutions provided funding internationally, and of course, all participating governments of the 13 countries provided their budgetary support and project support. The Secretariat was initially hosted by the World Bank, and then after the first 5 years, it was migrated to the New Delhi, to the Global Tiger Forum and the Global Tiger Initiative Council. So most of you would probably know why GTRP appeared, but I'll, for the sake of maybe a quick repetition, I will highlight to you that essentially what's been happening is that the tiger range, which on this map, the historic tiger range on this map is this shaded light brown color, the beige color, and the red is the current habitats which are presently conserved. So the collapse of the habitat has been 93% from the original state in the early 20th century to where it is now. And it has been increasingly declining over the previous couple of decades. And the population of tigers has collapsed from 100,000 to only 3,300 in 2010. You'll see here the little pictures of tigers across the map, and they indicate different subspecies of tigers and their kind of geographical spread. Siberian tigers, Turan tigers or Caspian tigers, Bengal tigers, etc. Out of these 9 subspecies, 3 are now already extinct. The Bali tiger, the Java taiga and the Caspian taiga. And one more, the South China taiga is functionally extinct in the wild. The others are still hanging out there. Note that this whole sub-range of Central Asian and Caucasus region is important for our future conversation, because there are no tigers there, but there is an ambition to actually bring them back here. And another quick reminder is these trajectories. The red line here is the population falling down. That's from the early 70s down to before the 2010. Well, what says today here, of course, is no longer today. It was before the start of the program. Now, the today of now is here in the 2020, where the goals are set. And the green trajectory is that of the habitat. Again, it's been falling down. So this is what has been attempted to turn the tide in the falling trajectories and start applying specific measures across various themes and sectors to revert both the habitat decline and the population decline. The program, as I said, it was multi-sectoral. It had several components and themes. These 7 themes are listed here. You can read them. And on the right, you can see it's a bit of an approximation of the total amount of resources that have been allocated on the basis of national needs to different components. And below is just a glimpse of that, each of these portfolios, thematic portfolios, all countries had their own designated priority implementation activities that they were gearing up to carry out during the course of the program. Now, here you can see essentially what it took to carry out the program. Originally there were 13 tiger-range countries, and for those of you who are not very good in geography, I can list them for you from left to right. These are Bangladesh, Bhutan, Cambodia, China, India, Indonesia. This is the new addition, the flag of Kazakhstan. I mentioned to you a minute ago about the Central Asian range, where tigers got extinct, and now Kazakhstan is stepping in to repopulate tigers in their historic range. And then continuing Laos, PDR, Malaysia, Myanmar, Nepal, Russian Federation, Thailand, and Vietnam. So these are the 14 countries that have united together to carry out this goal. And at the bottom, you can probably count roughly 40 different logos that I have put together. There were certainly more participants, not only international, but national partners, various organizations who were all contributing in different ways to the implementation of the program. Our host here today, Tigers United University Consortium, was also marked here for easy reference. Now, I already mentioned more than once that it's a country-led process. I think it's important to visualize that it was not just a one-off thing that somebody sat down, wrote a program, and then something happened with it. It was a continuous process with regular interactions, both at the technical level, at the level of stock taking, development, and then at the political level, ministerial meetings took place on a regular basis. And then at certain key moments, there were summits at the level above ministers. That was prime ministers, heads of governments. And 12 years down, which is this year, Russia has announced that it will host a summit. The announcement is for early September in Vladivostok, Russia. And as I just mentioned to you earlier, today came news that India is joining the proposal. So we might although there are no details yet about the second component, but it looks like we might have like a double summit. It's almost like the World Cup of football, where you would have key matches like there were in South Korea and Japan. So it could be a double summit. We'll see. But this is how the process worked, with countries really driving it forward, and the international community and partners supporting it. At this point, let me check. Yeah. So please send your questions. And at this point, I would like to stop for a moment and invite my dear colleague and friend, Dolly Charing. Dolly, are you there? Can you switch on your mic and video?
Hi, Andrey. I can definitely switch on my mic, but maybe I'll keep off the video because I'm in a village and the internet is very weak.
Okay, very good,
yeah.
Very good. That's fine. So Dolly, I wanted to kind of take a little bit of a stock as to what you've all heard from me up until now. And as I earlier mentioned, Dolly Charing is a senior specialist with the United Nations Development Program, and he himself is from Bhutan. So I wonder if you could maybe just offer a few commentaries, just literally a few sentences, a couple of minutes of your observations from your standpoint, both working in the United Nations and also being both a native and a national of Bhutan, and knowing very, very closely how Bhutan is faring on all this. What's been your experience with the GTRP implementation? Maybe if you could just comment a few words to as a matter of observation on my story so far. Dolly?
Sure. Thank you very much, Andrey. First of all, thanks, and let me start by wishing Happy Tigers Day to everybody gathered, and also the Year of the Tiger. This is of course of both professionally and personally, it's of very strong significance, because I was also born in the Year of the Tiger. So this is this Year of the Tiger. This year is particularly important to me. Now, speaking on Bhutan, Andrey, as you mentioned, Bhutan has been one of the key, countries. In fact, one of the original, Tiger Range countries that joined the GTRP. That has, for various reasons, both cultural and economic being very important. I'm hearing some feedback, so I don't know if Andrey, are you hearing me?
Yes, there was a pause, but now you come in. Okay, go ahead. Hello. We don't hear you, Dolly. Okay, there seems to be a bit of an interruption. So maybe Dolly, you'll have an opportunity to.
Sure, I'm sorry about that, Andrew. I think I got cut off, but maybe I can come back later.
Yes. We'll at the end we'll have more opportunity to offer some feedback. So, but thanks a lot for your initial intervention. Now let's move on to our second part of our conversation, and that's about so did it actually work, the GTRP, the program, and now that it's about to end at the current Year of the Tiger. What you see on the screen as planned results by 2022 is pretty much verbatim quotes from the 2010 document, which was approved back then at the summit in St. Petersburg, it lists those declared intentions of results to be reached. Number of tigers doubled, professional management in place for most landscapes, tiger poaching and trade effectively eliminated, illicit demand for tigers and their products eliminated, etc. People who live near tigers view them as an asset rather than a liability. Consistent science-based monitoring systems in place across much of the tiger range, and sustainable financing mechanisms to pay at least 15–20% of the cost of protecting tiger ecosystems operational in all range countries. Of course, with hindsight, this looks like it was a very ambitious set of goals, and most likely any observer will say that none of them were fully achieved. To make it even more complicated and a little bit disappointing, here for you again, don't worry about trying to read all this long list in small letters. It just gives you a sense of what the key performance indicators for the program were, as they have been painfully elaborated jointly by all tiger range countries. So these KPIs came late. They were only agreed already in the third year of the program. And then they ended up being rather complicated in a way that there was mixed implementation of the system of monitoring. Some of these indicators were attempted to be changed at mid-course, and only probably half of the countries really did a systematic use of these indicators. So now at the end, after 12 years, we can't really say that those sophisticated indicators can now be really usefully applied to demonstrate that each of them was tracking specific progress. Country by country, we have inputs already, and inputs continue to arrive, but overall there is no clear picture yet. So, but of course, the important thing is that the bottom line indicators, the ones that are at the bottom of the screen, change in the area of tiger habitat and particularly change in tiger populations, which are really the integrative indicators of the outcomes of our efforts. These are certainly more easy to track, and the results, some results are already sort of visible. And the two charts here, don't take them as ultimate science. This is just a quick and dirty assemblage of data, which is still, some of it is still pending, and they are coming from different sources, so they are yet to be really normalized to make clear conclusions. But still, you can see that as far as the target of the program related to doubling the number of tigers, there is clearly visible progress, and that's what the IUCN assessment has also reported a few weeks back. Of course, another thing which is very clear from it, yes, there is steady progress overall, maybe not quite the double in total, but certainly some countries, and countries that are really important to the picture, such as India. India has declared that they doubled their tigers against the 2010 baseline already 4 years early in 2018. Nepal today came with an announcement announcing that they doubled or more than doubled, and we have Maheshwar from Nepal who will talk about it a little bit later. And of course, the worrying part of the story is that the progress, well, overall there is progress cumulatively, but specifically in Southeast Asia, things don't look inspiring at all. It's actually a worrying story, and that has really triggered a major bolt of attention to that sub-region. And this year's ministerial conference that was hosted by Malaysia, and Malaysia on the right chart here is shown in this rather troubling light blue diminishing chart. They are now putting major efforts. They are providing a lot of political leadership. There's been prime minister level decisions about setting up national tiger task force, and they're putting lots of new boots on the ground in terms of increasing patrolling and engaging local and indigenous communities in patrolling. And overall, the countries of the sub-region are now working to put together a very ambitious shorter-term Southeast Asia Tiger Recovery Action Plan, and in short, it's called STRAP, S-T-R-A-P. So that's the picture, kind of in the broad brush. There is some more detailed analysis ongoing right now. There's been a lot of more refined data collected by our colleagues at the Global Tiger Forum. They released, again, just before the Asia Ministerial Conference, a very sophisticated set of data. And on the screen, you see just a few examples of such analysis. There's the one on the top shows you discrepancies between the overall funding levels on a per unit of area of protected areas per 1,000 square kilometers as related to the level of threats. Then another chart at the bottom shows the relative emphasis that different countries are applying to their working with community engagement. Here's a couple more charts to you from that same source, from the same report by the Global Tiger Forum. One is showing the on the top the overall prevalence of significant underinvesting in protected areas in most of the range countries. Of course, India shows what one can interpret as overinvesting, but I'm not sure as our friends in India will actually interpret it that way. But this is how the numbers are playing if you just look at the face value. And the chart at the bottom is showing some analysis of wildlife crimes recorded in dark brown bars versus crimes prosecuted and blue bars, and the yellow ones are crime convictions. And again, here the story is very different from country to country. It will take some time to actually interpret this properly. One case, for example, you can see that in India there are lots of crimes recorded, but very few prosecuted. On the other hand, in Nepal, it shows a slightly opposite situation where the convictions are very high, whereas the crime rate is lower. So again, these are some numbers that will require interpretation and proper analysis. Now, let's come to, again, some of the lessons learned, which are already emerging from the reports we are receiving from the countries, and some thematic briefs we are receiving from our various partners of the Global Tiger Recovery Program. These are by no means all-inclusive, just illustrations. One is, and that's already something I already talked about, that very clear and manageable progress indicators need to be agreed upon upfront the program, not in the middle of the program, and applied systematically. That's number one, clearly. Another interesting one is that all countries that have shown most progress over the last 12 years, with relation to tiger numbers and whatnot, tend to have a politically supported and designated tiger institution. Obviously, everyone knows about India. Their National Tiger Conservation Authority has been started with a Project Tiger, which will be celebrating its 50th anniversary next year on April 1st, I believe. So that's a really venerable system with strong traditions and strong capacity. Nepal has had for a number of years a National Tiger Conservation Committee, which was being headed by and is headed by the Prime Minister, and applies a lot of cross-sectoral and inter-ministerial effort to push the agenda forward. Russia has been strong. They have a very politically powerful Tiger Center. It's not a governmental entity, but it serves as a major connector and convener and amplifier of various needed messages that are coming through at the governmental and local levels. And I can quote other examples. Actually, now that we already talked about Malaysia, that it is now really putting a lot of effort in correcting their currently negative trend. And that also takes the highest level of emphasis, with the Prime Minister taking charge and leading this newly created National Tiger Conservation Task Force. So that's a very important political and institutional lesson. Another interesting story is that there are really limits to how far wildlife crime sentences can cause general deterrence to reduce poaching. And there is this whole new trajectory that criminal justice tools need to be embedded in the strategy of crime prevention rather than retribution. And another one is about tiger conflict management, which really needs to be dealing with both dedicated rapid response teams and rapid compensation for conflicts. So here again, let me stop for another moment and call upon my other good friend and colleague, Dr. Anupam Joshi from India. Anupam, are you there? Can you switch on your mic and video?
I'm here.
Hi there. Yes, Anupam, thanks for joining us. And just for everyone to understand, Anupam and I have worked together for many years. At the beginning of this program, he is still with the World Bank, based in New Delhi, India, and continues to professionally follow and be engaged in these environmental biodiversity conservation and other efforts. So my quick question to you, Anupam, is looking at how we kind of look back at what has been done and how we measure it. Can you say a few words about where your experience with regional activities in South Asia, which involve several countries, where you think they have made most impact with regards to this program, and where you may say there were, kind of challenging difficulties that are yet to overcome? Thank you.
Sure. Thanks so much. I think, of course, India is an outlier when it comes to, in the region making an impact. Because I remember that in 2010, when the summit took place, since then, India has added actually about 15 new tiger reserves. And, this is one of the challenges that one needs to overcome, declaring areas as protected with so much of population pressure increasing. So adding 15 new reserves has been quite remarkable. This totals to about 18,000 square kilometers of protected tiger habitat. So, the list of indicators that you showed on which the countries will work on, the first one was habitat improvement. So I think this is an area where this region has done really well. And you very correctly pointed out that Nepal just yesterday announced doubling of their tigers. I think another important aspect that has really happened in the region is the regional wildlife project that the bank supported, which led to the establishment of SAVEN, or South Asia Wildlife Enforcement Network, which is headquartered at Kathmandu. So countries have been, coming together, and I'm happy to also announce that, India, Nepal, India, Bhutan, India, Bangladesh, they have signed memorandum of understandings on tiger conservation and on controlling wildlife crimes. So I think, in short, these are some of the achievements in the region. Challenges remain. South Asia remains a supplier country to other wildlife markets in the world, namely towards Southeast Asia. So that and crime control will remain a challenge. Investing in this would be a challenge, especially in the post-COVID era, when resources are running dry and health and other social development sectors are taking prominence. So these would be some of the challenges in managing this aspect. But overall, we are on the right track to improve the conservation status of tigers, and the 13 countries have really done that very well. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Anupam. So let's carry on to our final part about what next. First, I again put together a bit of an initial and indicative partial list of some of the persisting challenges that have been haunting the program earlier on, and I think continue to haunt them. And some of this analysis is already coming from those thematic briefs that we are receiving from our partner organizations. One obvious one is that the connectivity among tiger conservation landscapes continue to be lost to linear infrastructure development. While human densities, the population keeps growing in urbanization, suburbanization, and that affects also the near tiger habitat areas. But based on the reports of the various management effectiveness measurement tools, the community engagement as the element of protected area management remains reported and measured as the weakest of all elements, which is really not acceptable anymore. In terms of measuring human-tiger conflicts, there is still no system or database of tracking all such incidents of all types across the range, which again is a major deficiency in designing the right interventions to deal with this emerging and new issue and growing issue. One interesting point that was observed is that the pattern of engagement of the various partners with the Global Tiger Recovery Program has been, and in many situations, kind of stop-start pattern, where at some points there is intensive engagement, and then there is no connectivity, and then there is another big meeting, there is more engagement, and then no. So it does not yield to supporting or incentivizing strategic partners investing in long-term processes of building and strengthening tiger institutions and their capacity. And of course, it's obvious for everyone if you look at the news feed every day, we are living in the bombshell of crises these days for the last few years. And certainly, whether it's pandemics or food price and energy price crisis or the conflicts in Europe, it does not help with making the regional sources of official aid for biodiversity to be reliable. So they're more volatile than ever, and it presses the need to keep pushing for new financial instruments to be applied. In terms of opportunities, low-hanging fruit and others, there's new research, new tool coming out, which talks about documenting that the currently unoccupied potential tiger habitats account for almost as much as the existing tiger conservation landscapes. There is a tool called TCL 3.0, and there is a publication coming up by some of our esteemed partners and some of the best sort of conservation scientists in the world that are showing in hard numbers based on remote sensing data and other publicly available data that on maps like the one you see on the screen, that what is shown as kind of grayish, light gray landscapes, these are the so-called restoration landscapes that are suitable for tigers, but where currently tigers are proven extinct. And then there are also the light gray landscapes, which is another significant part, which they call survey landscapes, where there is no proven or reliably documented presence of tigers, but again, these landscapes are suitable for tigers. So that's a very important opportunity to apply to the planning of the new global tiger recovery program and how it should be implemented. Another really exciting development is that with the propagation of data science and really a wealth of such human resources in Asia, certainly in South Asia and elsewhere, that data analysts could be engaged in working with wildlife law enforcement data, patrolling data, smart patrolling data to help enable what is called problem-oriented policing tactics, which is going not only after punishing perpetrators, but removing the causes of the crime. So that's a very important and powerful development. In terms of convergence of different agendas, we have this is the year of the COP for Biodiversity Convention. There is a climate COP. This whole pandemic crisis has given prominence to the One Health agenda, which is also connecting environmental health, wildlife health with human and animal health. So all these processes coming together give an opportunity for the tiger range countries to push for using the tiger abundance and distribution as official indicators under these environmental agreements. And that will help both promote the visibility of what's is already on a success track, and also will provide political boost to proper reporting and monitoring. So that's another opportunity not to miss. And of course, I already said that with the difficulties with official aid, the traditional sources of public funding, there is now more and more opportunity to and the need to start promoting innovative financial tools. And our friends in the UNDP working with other organizations are developing some really interesting financial tools, such as tiger recovery bonds and sovereign nature performance bonds. Again, you know, the details will come when the thematic briefs are ready, but this is really all giving great opportunities. Finally, what are the potential new goals that we can apply? What you see on the screen, I'm not going to read this. I'll just read the big captions: secure and increase populations, expand the range, and turn the tide. This is kind of a three-pillar approach, which has been jointly formulated by our colleagues in the environmental and geo community. They've jointly worked out this proposal, and at the bottom there is an internet link where you can find the full document. But that's one fresh approach of what could be framed as the goal for the next 12 years. Certainly, it's something that will be up for discussion, and it will be really for the tiger range countries to adopt, to modify, or otherwise proclaim what the high-level aspirational goals should be for the next 12 years. So I'll stop here, and Maheshwar, can you please switch on your mic and your video? And
I think I switched in the mic, but the video, I think the organizers.
Okay. No problem.
Now it's okay now.
Yeah, no problem. So Maheshwar Dakal, as I mentioned earlier, is another very good friend and colleague. He's a senior government official in the government of Nepal. And I understand you're just fresh from your important public meetings with your minister and other government colleagues announcing your milestone achievements in the Global Tiger Recovery Program. So I'd like you to maybe say a few words about what do you see as the key result from the last 12 years for Nepal that makes you proud, but also maybe adds you additional worries, and what you would take as your strategic trajectory should be for the next 12 years. Of course, you can speak just for yourself as a really an eminent specialist, or you could also share some of the views of the government as a whole. So, and what you might say about the proposals for formulating future goals that you see on screen. Maheshwar?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Andre. I think it is very nice to meet some of the old colleagues after a long time because of the COVID-19 and other reasons. Actually, we could not meet, and at the same time, thank you very much for organizing this important meeting. Andre and colleagues, I would like to inform that the Nepal has increased the tiger number as we expected. I mean, as we targeted, even the result today, which is published, is really encouraging. Actually, in 2010, our population was just suppose 121, and we counted the number in 2013. The number was 198, and then again we counted in 2018. The number was 235, and today the final result was published as we committed. The final number is 355 around. Is really good number for us. And for me, as I was engaged in GTRP and NTRP together with all international colleagues, and even now working in the ministry, uh, what I learn is that the teamwork of the Nepal among the stakeholder, particularly local communities and Nepal Army and Nepal Police, and of course the park officials and conservation partners, including WWF Nepal, NTNC, and ZSL. All we people work together. That's why we are succeeded to increase the number. I mean, the conservations without teamwork is almost impossible. This is the fundamental learning what we learn. But at the same time, from this morning, I have received more than 12, even 15 journalists are asking one questions. Sir, the tiger is increased. So nice that the number is very good, but what will be its impact? And the local communities most likely are going to pay the cost of tiger increase. That is the very strong questions is asking by the general public and then journalists and other many people. That's why what I am thinking is in the future, especially to the country like Nepal, but earlier Anupam ji said that the regional project concept is very good for the country like Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and India, because the Royal Bengal tiger is the very important species, and among the other tiger species, the Royal Bengal tiger is largely belongs to these four countries. Uh, in the future, my suggestions uh, to the country like Nepal, increasing the tiger number is not a big deal now. But the question is, how do we can manage the number in the long run and manage the conflicts with the local communities and ensure the livelihood and then the security of the people's life as well. This part, I think, in the future we have to focus. And at the same time, another understanding I think we have to develop very broadly and very sincerely is that uh, if the country like Nepal succeeded to increase the tiger, then I think we all international community should give the priority to the local community, whether it could be the climate change project through Green Climate Fund, or even or the earmark international support in global environmental facility or other bilateral donors. Maybe we have to focus, because why this is very critical is that in Nepal, we design our laws to support the buffer zone concept, where 50% of the park income directly goes to the local communities. But unfortunately, because of the COVID-19, last 2 years onwards, the income is almost zero. And the local communities, they are not going to receive any supports in terms of livelihood support or ecotourism support or any community development supports. That's why we have to seek and search additional funding resources that local communities can directly get the benefit, and we can take the support from them. If the local communities do not get any support from the tiger conservation, maybe in the future it is really difficult to maintain the number, and this is the very challenging business. That's why but Andre and colleagues, maybe the next target, if you align with the post biodiversity framework or other international commitment, I think we have to be separate based on the country, because
Yes.
some of the countries they do not need to support the local communities. Maybe law enforcement could be the more important factors, but to the countries like Nepal, where tiger number is increased and is really challenging to maintain the number, then supporting to the local communities should be the first priority. Thank you very much, Andre.
Thank you.
At this
Yeah, thanks so much, Maheshwar. And again, great congratulations to all of your colleagues in Nepal and in the region on the Global Tiger Day. So we are now almost consumed the time that's allocated to us. Kyla, do you, yeah, I guess this is the time for questions.
Yeah, Andre, let me intercede here. And first of all, thank you. That was absolutely terrific. And Kayla's going to field some questions. We've got several questions on here. Let me just say quickly, we're probably not going to be able to address them all. But what we're going to do is ask Andre to answer those in writing, and we'll put them back up on our website so we get an answer out to everybody. So with that, let's turn to our Q&A. Kayla?
Thank you, Andre. We have great questions here, and I'm sorry we won't be able to address all of them, but we'll just go in order. Did all of the Tiger Range countries achieve T×2?
Well, as already said early in the beginning, first, even in total, this was not achieved, but there was significant progress made in that direction. Two important countries have achieved, that's India and Nepal. You've heard about both today. Others were increasing numbers, but not to the doubling it, and some countries were losing tigers. So it's a mixed story, but the overall trend is positive and inspiring.
Great, and we have another question here. What are the key actions that some TRCs successfully achieved the T×2 goal in the last GTRP, while others completely lost tigers or the population dwindled further down? How the TRCs that lost tigers can be encouraged for population recovery?
Well, the one example that we already talked about earlier today is Malaysia. It has not lost the tigers, but it has lost a big chunk of them over the last 12 years due to very indiscriminate and aggressive plantation development and whatnot. And they are now taking really very serious steps to reverse that decline and to stop the decline and save their tigers. So that's one very clear example that countries can take it very seriously. Other countries, another example I mentioned, there was Kazakhstan had no tigers at all since the last 50, 70 years. But they are seeing that revival of tigers is an important signal about the health of their entire economy and ability to develop in a sustainable way. So they're taking this very almost like a moonshot challenge to bring back tigers where they were not since many decades ago. And we also know of countries in Southeast Asia. For example, there are very concrete programs now already being developed in part in Cambodia, working closely with their partners in India to work out a tiger reintroduction program in Cambodia, where the populations of tigers have been effectively lost, but the habitat is there. And provided that they will continue to safeguard the habitat and the prey in it, they will be in a position to repopulate some of these tiger landscapes with wild tigers. So examples are there, and the willingness of the countries to do so is also there.
Another question for you, Andre, here. What steps are being done in the future to at least maintain the tiger population growth rate, given the high rate of deforestation?
Well, I think that it overlaps with what we already discussed. Again, as the goal of doubling the number of tigers has been the singular overarching goal for the initial 12 years, and we are making progress. I think what we've heard from Maheshwar in Nepal just now is that for a number of countries, really the issue of sustaining the tiger populations is no longer the growing their numbers, but making sure that the surrounding communities can live in peace with tigers and be more seeing live tigers as assets to their livelihoods rather than as a liability that needs to be taken out. And so in this respect, the next 12 years we'll have to see a more nuanced approach to goal setting. With some countries, yes, the reintroduction of tigers and continuing to support the increase of the breeding tiger populations would be important. In other countries, the expansion of the effective range of tigers would be important to make sure that the smaller fragmented habitats of the existing tigers remain connected, and that the tigers can move from one habitat to another, thereby maintaining their genetic and other health. And yet in another set of countries, such as Nepal, the key thing will be to minimize human-tiger conflict and empower communities to benefit from the tigers that they live nearby. So it's not just about numbers anymore, it's really about numbers, areas, populations, and security and livelihoods.
Okay, we have time for one more. The next one is actually to get insights from all of the panelists. So I think what we'll do there is collect responses from everyone after the event and include them in the final Q&A document, which we will email out to everyone. But the next question here, if you can address this one live, Andre, says, what initiatives or aid will be provided to the countries that are unable to increase their tiger population?
Again, coming back to the numbers. Well, with aid, I think the one important thing which I started with in my description of the program, that the program is really driven by the countries, and no amount of aid will help a country if it does not set itself a task and applies political will and kind of administrative resolve to work on these issues. So that part is really essential and fundamental, and the 13, or rather now 14 countries working together is one really fundamental way of keeping their eyes on the ball of the overall big target and how to collectively reach it. And the support from the international community is very important, but it will continue to have to come in very context-specific applications. In each country, it will have to fit the particulars of their socioeconomic development programs, and so there's no one overall recipe saying, okay, give more money or send more troops or send us more computers or guns or whatever. So it's really it's much more smart than that, and that's and the countries maintaining their commitment to reaching that goal is really fundamental, and the external support is important but secondary to that.
Well, that's terrific. Andre, thank you. That was a terrific presentation. Thank you, Kayla, for addressing those questions. And let me thank everyone that's joined us today. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us in, but more importantly, let me thank everyone on here, particularly our global partners in the TRCs that have done so much to bring us to this point. Obviously, there's more work to do. We want to be partners with that. And as we start to move forward over the next 12 years, but I think today's a day that we should celebrate because we have made great progress. This would have never happened if it hadn't been the vision of many people back in 2010, but the future does look bright and we've got a lot of more work to do, but let's take today and celebrate. So thank you all for joining us. On behalf of all of the faculty, staff, and students at our 4 universities of Tigers United, let me end this by saying what we do to really address others as we see them on a day-to-day basis, and it's simply go Tigers. So we appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar.